Boom.
Thank you, folks, for finding us on the YouTube channel. We are Little Motors in Lower New York State. We're in the beautiful county of Putnam, the town of Lake Carmel, and I have a lot of stuff I want to tell you about. We are a full-service, small engine shop. Been here for about 12 years, and over 20,000 machines later, I have things that I want to tell you. And I'm glad that you're here. Today we're going to start with a service on a snowblower, and hopefully that we can post an informational, educational video every week. We want to do that once a week, and you'll find us on our YouTube channel. You can also find us at littlemotors.info. And we are on the Facebook, I believe, and hopefully we're going to be on the Twitter soon also. Now, this particular machine I'm sitting on took a whooping in the last snowstorm. And this auger assembly stopped working. And we'll see why. And basically what you have, a couple of auger blades or rotor blades. You got a transaxle assembly that's here. You have a couple of support bearings on each side, and a second stage assembly here. Now, I don't know why, but this auger is loose, and this auger is loose too. In fact, this auger sounds like it's got a piece of the old shear bolt in it. Shear bolt are a couple of bolts that, as the name implies, shear. They are bolts that are specially designed, a soft metal that will shear. But we're going to do a bucket service here. What we're going to do here is we're going to set the skid shoes, we're going to groom the scraper rail. Okay, so let's start with the shear bolts. I have a couple. These shear bolts, they're normally either a 1/4 inch or 5/16. These are 1/4 inch bolts, and this one goes right in, mating the mating the rotor to the axle of this transfer case here. And we'll just start with that. All right, so this rotor is locked. This one's still free spinning. This rotor here, it's sheared off one of the shear bolts. Okay, and the remnants of that bolt is still left in here. So we're going to take a punch. Take a little punch, a little hammer, find the hole and pop out the remnant of that shear bolt. Here. And here it is. All right, so you get a piece of this bolt here, and now that's free. This one we've already locked in. Let's put the other one in. Okay, and let's continue with this bucket service. Okay, these bolts are usually 7/16 sockets to get the bolts and the nut connected to one another. We'll just leave that for now, and I'll come back later and tighten that up. Okay, next we're going to do is, this is called the scraper rail. The scraper rail, real important. Works in conjunction with the skid shoes. Let's get those loose. Skid shoes generally held on by a couple of 1/2 inch bolts. And we're just going to loosen these. And as you can see, these were never set correctly. You can see that this scraper edge is way lower than the base of this shoe. So We're going to set those up by loosening these bolts. These are the adjustment bolts on each side. Okay. Keep in mind this edge here, okay, and that the base of the shoes have to be just slightly lower, 1/16 of an inch, 32nd of an inch, lower than this edge. But I'll tell you what, before we set the shoes, let's groom the scraper rail. We like a nice flat edge on this, and I'm going to use a right angle grinder. Alright, so before, we set this skid shoe height. You can see it's all over the place. I just want to groom the scraper rail here. I'm going to take the edge off of this. I'm going to use a right angle grinder. And here we go. It's going to make a whole bunch of noise, but it's worth it at the end. Basically, took all of the kick up that was on this scraper rail over here, just kind of smoothing it out. I'm going to do the rest of it. That's good. Next, let's set our shoe length. Generally, I do this by getting right parallel with this, and I kind of eye these. You can actually set it on the ground like this if you want to. Okay, push the shoes down. Use a little bit of a spacer. How about a piece of cardboard of some sort? A little piece of cardboard. Just going to get it up just slightly higher. Poke that right in the middle. Like that. Push my shoes down all the way. All the way. And then I'll tighten it up. And I'll have shoes that are just slightly higher than the ground. Okay. Or the ground scraper, the ground rail. Something like that. Now we're just about done with the service on this. Main problem was the shear bolts. But since I'm here, let's finish up the rest of it. Let's grease this. And we need to grease this rail, and there are grease fittings that are on this assembly. Okay, and fortunately, if we have a grease gun, and I think we do, we can just kind of pump this up. I'm going to pump this up. Okay. And we know that's working because I got grease coming out of where the shear bolts live. Let me see if I can get this one from this side. And this one too. I got grease pushing through the axle assembly. Now, it's not always complete till you seal the end of the axles, and the way I have to do that is by hand and with some really decent high temperature grease, and you put it on your hands and you wipe it into the end of the axle assembly, and that's it. You just get in there and do it, and it's dirty, but somebody has to do it, which would probably be you. So I'm wiping this into this assembly on both sides. Okay, really wiping in a good wad. Okay, and you do this every year to your machine. These auger assemblies will not rust into the axle. Okay. And yes, it's somewhat of a nuisance, but you only have to do it once a year. And it's great. You're going to have a machine that's going to do all the shoveling for you. And that's pretty much it. I'm just going to tighten up these shear bolts, and then it's done. The whole bucket service is done. We groomed the screw. And thanks for coming to the Little Motors. And find us again at littlemotors.info, and find us on the YouTube channel